In our last two sessions, we discussed a letter from a woman who said her husband, Rick, had become increasingly physically abusive and had recently begun hitting her with his fists. I described the lack of real love in their lives and then how they had searched for and found imitation love in each other. At first, they experienced the initial high of falling in love, but then it all collapsed, as imitation love always does, and the disappointment was enormous. They began to blame and attack each other, all for a little sense of power and safety. Now, back to the writer of the letter. Neither of you realized you were doing it, but for some time now with your behavior, both of you have been screaming at each other, "I don't love you." And the wounds from that are more painful than tongue can tell. There is nothing more hurtful than the message, "I don't love you." In addition to that verbal message, however, eventually Rick also began to lash out physically. In order to eliminate his emptiness and fear, Rick lashed out at you verbally and then physically. In the moments he hit you, he briefly felt stronger, less helpless, less empty, and unloved. Physical violence gives him a feeling of power, a form of imitation love. What he's doing is not right, but you need to see how understandable it is. At the moment he's hitting you, he is out of his mind in pain. The pain that comes from emptiness and fear. The emptiness and fear that result from not feeling unconditionally loved. And that's from a lifetime of emptiness and fear. Not just because he doesn't feel loved by you. You're just a small part of this. So do not feel responsible for his lifetime of pain. This same pain is also why you put up with his hitting you. You are so empty yourself that you can't bear the thought that he would withdraw any affection or attention or any morsel of imitation love you might get from him. So you're willing to accept his apologies and flowers as substitutes for real love. The two of you are still trading imitation love, even in your fights, even in the process of making up. So, what can you do here? Every solution must start with the truth as a foundation. Without the truth, you're doomed. So let's summarize the truth. You stated in your letter that Rick loves you. No, he doesn't. The only kind of love that counts is real love. Everything else is garbage, like imitation love. Now, does he love you as well as he can? Yes. But he does not love you unconditionally. And that is simply because he doesn't know how to love you. He was never loved unconditionally himself from childhood. So how in the world could he love you? He couldn't. Could he be taught to love you unconditionally? Yes. And that's the point of this discussion. That's the point of this website and everything we do. Then you said that after he hits you, he's sorry. Well, sort of. But if he were truly sorry, he wouldn't keep doing it. The truth is, he's really just eager not to lose you as his closest and most reliable source of imitation love. You're the best source of praise, power, pleasure, sex, and so on that he's ever had, and he doesn't want to see you go. So what he's sorry about is that he's done something that might result in your leaving. Does that mean that he can't be taught to be genuinely sorry? No, of course not. And we'll talk more about all of this in our next session.